Welcome to the Business Life of Husband and Wife podcast.
A show based on real experiences in business and life.
Episode 6.
6 today.
Episode 6. So I can't do math very well today, but I believe that's 58 episodes we've hit now. 58 episodes. Yeah. So as you guys know, we've got 4 formats of our show. We have our couples formats where we bring on couples. We get the ins and outs and all the bouts, find out how they deal with their life, their business, their relationship as a whole unit. And then we have our
expert guest, which we actually have on today's episode. So what we do is, all of season 1 was all the 101s of behind the scenes business. So we have on lawyers, accountants, HR specialists, marketing specialists, just kind of get the basics on that. But season 2 is all in depth and detail. And that's what we're going to be doing today. But the third format is we have Q&A episodes. So that's where you guys can submit your questions on the top right-hand corner of our website, which is businesslifeofhusbandandwife.ca. Or you can also just shoot us a DM also on Instagram, which is also Business Life of Husband and Wife. And then we have that new format this season, Clint.
Yeah, so our new format's the Foundation Hour. So we got 8 episodes this year that are coming out, and it is 8 rules or things that Robin and I have found super beneficial to us actually making it through 10 years in operating our business together. And marriage. So the last episode we did was the 10% rule. You guys can go back and check that out. And we broke it down a little bit differently than how you can hear it from different specialists, but we just kind of use 10% in our own way when it comes to finances, time management, a lot of those different avenues. So you guys are going to get 8 different episodes on that. And without further ado,
today's episode,
our expert guest. So today, we want to talk YouTube. So we're going to talk the process of building a YouTube channel to start with, and then we're going to get in depth in some of the nuances. And so I'm going to let you introduce yourself, Ben.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it. My name is Benjamin Delgrosso. We met in Arte, which is actually a networking group that we're in. And basically, I'm located in Greater Vancouver, Canada. I own a company called Safe Drive Solutions. We specialize in dash cameras. And to kind of give you a little bit of a short brief, basically about 14 months ago, I finished 75 Hard, which some people might know what 75 Hard is. And I'm actually on it again right now. Today is day 30.
Oh, damn.
So yeah, kicking ass, taking names. So which is great.
If you see him on the screen, if you see him drinking a lot of water, so he's getting through it, you'll know why.
There it is.
I'm almost 3 liters done today. But yeah, the wife's on it too. She's like, I think day 25 or something like that. She failed a few times, had muffins and stuff like that. So she does work at like a bakery. So it's a little bit harder for her to like resist the temptation, right? But she's kicking ass, right?
Fresh baked muffin.
But I finished 75 Hard the first time, and all of a sudden I just started making YouTube videos is what I started doing. And I just didn't care what anybody thought about me anymore. So that's kind of where it was. And then I started going from there. But yeah, that's a little bit about me.
There's the Coles notes. And he's doing 75 Hard. So for you guys that don't know, for the second time around, are you getting into like the full program, or are you just doing 75
Hard? The Live Hard?
So I decided, because most people will do a New Year's resolution saying, I'm going to get fit or whatever. So my goal was I'm going to do Live Hard throughout the entire year, because my understanding from all the rules is you have to do phase 3 the last 30 days of the year. And usually December's busy. It's really cold. So I assume it's going to be the hardest thing I could put myself through is December, last 30 days of the year. So, that's my goal.
Nice.
My goal.
Right? All those nice cold showers and all that jazz are right in the coldest months as well.
It sucks.
It builds character, right? It builds character.
So basically, if you guys don't know, go Google it. Google 75 Hard, the Live Hard program. You can read up on what we're talking about. There's
Andy also has an episode on it. I think it's episode 216.
I'm not. Yeah, we're not going to quote his episode. No. I don't know. It's somewhere on there. You can go find out what Ben's doing right now. Yes. Robin completed it. I failed it last year.
Yes.
So I haven't started again yet. I'm one of those guys. I was like, oh, well, we'll get to it.
You'll get to it.
We'll get to it again. I've stayed with some of the things. Like I still drink the water, still do the reading. It's just the 2 workouts a day and the diet program. I'm like, I'll get to that again. So I kept a couple good ones, but we'll get back on it eventually.
Nice.
That brings us back to YouTube, which we're supposed to be doing on this show.
Right.
So once you finish 75, you started YouTube and like going hard at doing YouTube, and it kind of goes with like you're a camera specialist for dash cams anyway, so it kind of makes sense you'd be transitioning and using cameras to promote cameras, right?
It does definitely make sense. Yeah. I mean, 100%. So yeah, do you want to kind of know how I started? And I can give you a little bit of Cole's notes and give you an idea of what happened. So I already had blogs on my website. So a lot of people, if you know what content is, I already had all this great content on my website. I want to say at that time I had maybe 28 blogs written. So what I did was, because I was kind of uncomfortable being in front of the camera, and if you actually watch a bunch of my early on YouTube videos, you're going to see me do this. But I literally am looking down. I'm not even looking at the camera at all, because I'm looking at a laptop I have in front of me, and I'm reading all of the blogs right off my website, right? And it's good content. And actually that video has, I think it's 6,000 or 7,000 views right now in 14 months. Because it's good information. Will my car battery die from a dash cam? Well, lots of people want to know that. So it's good information, but it's brutal. Like I did everything wrong. I literally had I had a cheap microphone from Amazon, and every time I like tapped on the table, like leaned on it because I was like nervous, it would go ding, like right through the freaking microphone. It was terrible, right? But it was good information. And that's the big thing that people want on YouTube, is it needs to be good information that educates you. If it isn't good information, your listeners are not going to listen, and they're not going to watch at all, period, no matter what you do, right? So you need to make sure you have that. And what I do now, if I'm going to read a blog or read notes or anything like that, what I actually do now, just to kind of give you an idea of how far I've come, is I make notes. And I have 2 monitors. I've gone really fancy compared to what I used to have. And I'll have it on the screen. And instead of trying to do it all in one sitting, I break it up into compartments, right? So like, for instance, I did a video today and I had 14 separate recordings. And they're all like 30 seconds, 20 seconds, a minute. And then I put them all together. I know I'm a little jumping ahead, but I'm just going to give you an idea of how it's progressed. Because I used to try and like do the 10 minutes, which basically made me look down at the computer and look professional. But now what I do is I look at my notes, I back up, I have I have it all set up kind of thing here, right? And then I spout off what I remember in my head, and I just kind of free roll the information that I just read, because I have so much more confidence now. And if you want to start a YouTube channel, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to do things wrong. You're going to screw it up. But the thing is, the people who are going to continue getting better at YouTube are the ones who are going to keep going and, okay, I screwed up. Okay, what should I do now? And find people in your industry that are doing things really good and watch what they're doing. What are they talking about? You can easily just take what they talked about and make your own spin on it. That's really it at the end of the day. And not, like I said, I'm a little jumping forward here, right? But I basically looked at whatever all my competitors were doing, because like we know in our entrepreneur group, Andy likes to say R&D, which is rip off and duplicate, right?
Yep.
So what I like doing is I look, what are all the competitors doing? What are these guys talking about? And I made a video like what they had. And then I said, how can I put my own spin on it? Well, guess what? When I did that, that's when my channel blew up, right? Because now I put my own spin on it, and I focused on the education instead of the transaction. Too many people are building YouTube channels trying to sell you a product instead of actually trying to educate you on the product. So,
and that's good advice. That's great advice, though, because you see a lot of people you see some of the most successful people on YouTube, that's what they do. Their education. There's a guy that I have followed, and I forget exactly what his channel's name was, but he's like the dad who's there, I think it was called. And he would do.
Isn't it Ask Dad?
It's Ask Dad.
Yeah.
It's Ask Dad. That's right. And he would do things that, like, if your dad didn't show you, or your dad wasn't there to show you how to do something, he'd show you how to change a faucet.
Yeah. Ask Dad how to change a faucet.
He would show you how to go and like wire a 3-way switch if you like for your house, if you could, or fix an electrical problem, or fix a wobbly chair, like anything. He has this whole, and he's just educating people, and it's free. It's wild.
That's awesome. I mean,
But
I think, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's super basic, but it's educating people, and he's not selling anything. He's just using that to monetize eventually off of what YouTube would pay you, right?
Yeah.
But his whole premise was just to educate people because he's a handyman.
Yeah.
So he's just showing you tips and tricks.
Nice. So you want me to get into like equipment needed kind of thing? Because I think
we should start there.
Yeah, let's start there. Let's go right to the back. So let's start right at the beginning. Like when you first start, you started out with some basic stuff, and you said like cheap mics and things like that, which you can do because, like you said, the content is what is key and people are paying attention to. But when you hit that threshold of you want your quality sound, you want quality video, and you want even some editing software. So let's touch on like microphones, cameras, what you kind of use, and what people can look for and kind of snoop and see.
Mm-hmm.
So I started with a cheap, Amazon special microphone, no name brand. I think it's like Oohoo or something. I don't know. It was like $40. I ordered it. It had one of those like, black foam things that goes over top of it, whatever, all that fun stuff. Right. So I had one of those. And then I had a ring light I got from Costco. It was like $40. And literally I used my phone. Right. And, I used a program called EpocCamPro. The EpocCamPro, you can get it on the App Store. It's about, I think it's $10. And I hooked it up to my MacBook Pro. So I had a MacBook Pro here. So MacBook Pro, like a computer of some kind, right?
Yep.
Microphone, my iPhone, and a cheap ring light, like a cheap 40. I was $200 in, if that, in parts. And if you actually go to like Costco or look online, like a lot of these places, they have like this $150, $250 start a podcast kind of kits, right? Which you can also utilize for YouTube because typically they have like a webcam or whatever, right? But EpocCam, you can use EpocCam, which is free. And the reason why I say you can use EpocCam, the difference is I think the max resolution was like 720p when you use the free app. But when you use the Pro, I think you can use 2K or 4K if your camera will record it. Okay. And you can either do it wirelessly to your computer, which I don't recommend. I recommend using a cable plug-in, which is like the same kind of cable that you plug into your phone, and basically plug in, and you can use Zoom, or depending on how you want to record it, QuickTime if you're a Mac user, right? That's two things that I would use. I usually use Zoom for doing YouTube. I use QuickTime nowadays. Back then I used to use Zoom because I didn't know any better. But with QuickTime, I can get a good 1080p resolution, which is usually what people want on YouTube, is at least 1080p. Okay.
Can you explain that? Do you know like the difference? Because I just learned it literally like a month ago, the difference between like 1080p, 720, 4K, and now they have 8K, like DSLRs merged basically with like production. There's a whole thing of like, it's a whole can of worms. It's a rabbit hole you can go down. But just explain to people the difference in those.
So a couple different things. Well, obviously I deal with dash cams, so we also deal with resolution in that. So I don't claim to be an expert. However, when you're dealing with 4K, 4K is going to take up, 3840 by 2160 pixels, which is going to probably take up almost my whole screen here. I have a huge, I think it's a 32-inch monitor I have here, right? Now, if I want to watch 2K resolution is about 2560 by 1440 pixels. So that's going to take up about like 3/4 of the screen, and 1080p is like, I don't know, like half the screen kind of thing, right? It's 1920 by 1080 resolution. Okay. Now, if you listen to Mr. Beast, who has like 114 million people subscribed or whatever it is now, it might be 120 million. He's got a lot, right? He only does all his videos in 1080p. right? Because he knows the majority of people are viewing it on a phone, right? And if you're watching it over like cellular or Wi-Fi and you don't have high speed, 4K is not going to matter on that small of a screen anyways, right? In all seriousness.
Mhm.
Now, for someone like me that I have 4K dash cameras, I do a lot of recordings in 4K because I need to show the difference of resolution in that, right? And that's if people are watching me on the TV, then they're going to get the full effect of the 4K because it's going to maximize there.
Right.
But if the majority of your viewers aren't watching it on TV, the 4K is not going to make a massive difference because you're watching it on a small device,
Right.
That's good to
right?
know.
Well, no, it makes sense. And that's,
Mhm.
I just learned it. And I also learned about the zoom capabilities too. Like you can zoom in a lot more on your smaller device if you film in 4K when you want to go to 1080, it comes right down. And
Yeah.
that's just something I was learning because it's like 4,000 pixels per whatever. I don't even know the actual term for it, but it just allows you to have a clearer image on a smaller device if you film at a higher resolution.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. You just have to keep in mind that not everybody, like I've had people tell me like I couldn't watch your dash cam video on my phone because it's in 4K. So I had to watch it on my TV because they can't really see the difference on the small phone. Now on an iPad, which is also another big device used all the time, you can probably works well on there as well. So
it's
but-
not necessary. Basically what we're saying is not necessary to go get
No.
an insanely overpriced camera if you're not filming production value. Like, you know what I
No.
mean? If you're not going to go out and you're filming things in motion or you're doing X Games or something, you might want something a little fancier that has all those things. But for doing just a regular YouTube channel,
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
can
like
keep it a little more simple.
even when I started my podcast, the first 20 episodes that I did, and I'm at like 70 episodes or something now, were my phone, that cheap ring light, right? That's all I used was that and the cheap microphone. First 20 or 25 episodes were done that way before I invested. Don't go. So many people, you want to talk about like entrepreneurs. Like when I started my business, I want everything to be perfect, every little thing, detail. And then I launch and it's like, but everything's perfect. Where are the customers? Well, the customers don't give a crap that it's perfect because they aren't even coming to you yet. So, you know what? When you start your YouTube channel, you're going to have like 2 people view it and you're going to be upset. Like, oh, why did only 2 people view it? It's going to suck. You have to realize that, but you're learning and you're practicing to get better. So don't make everything perfect. Use your phone, use some basic stuff. I actually was talking about this a couple weeks ago. I made a whole 20-minute video in my vehicle with a DJI mount. This thing's pretty cool and it holds your phone. And I just had it sitting on my passenger seat with my phone. And the whole video was done in my vehicle, right? Now, sure, my phone can record in 4K, so whatever, right? Which is cool. But the thing is, that's a whole 20-minute video that has, I don't know, 300 views or something like that. I think it's been live for a few weeks. It's not like a massive video like some of the other ones I have done. But the thing is, you don't need to be super fancy. Like if I was all worried about that and I got to make sure to take my 4K Logitech camera out there and I got to make a mount now and then, like you don't have to be that crazy and intense. Start with something simple. Like I said, start with a phone, start with a ring light, keep it maybe max $200 of investment. And from there, see how you do, see if you even like it. Right. And then build off of that, then get fancier. Right. Like you want to talk about the equipment I'm at now. Right. I went from the cheap Oohoo mic or whatever it's called. Now I got the Blue Yeti X, right here. And that thing's on a podcaster stand. So I can actually weave it around, move the height, change it. Right. It's pretty fancy. And like I was showing you guys off camera too, like I have the Logitech 4K camera here and it's on a swing arm. So I can move it and change it depending on how I want the camera to be displaying. I have these really wicked lights, which if you are going to invest in the future, or maybe you're doing a YouTube channel right now and you're looking how to get better. I use these things. They're called Litra Glow. They're from Logitech. They plug directly into the USB of your computer, or just a USB charger. Like if you have a cell phone charger, it'll plug right into that. And the funny thing is, when I recorded in my vehicle, I actually just took one of these with me and plugged it in my USB charger in my vehicle and just had it sitting there for lighting in my vehicle, because it's that portable.
Yeah.
But it has a little mount that latches on the top of your computer screen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, these things, and
You
they're
can
really
see them
bright.
in the background behind your head. If you guys,
Yeah,
you guys
you can
watch
kinda
it on
see
YouTube,
'em.
you can't see it.
Yeah.
Can't see it if you're listening to audio, but on the YouTube, you can kind of see him on the back on the picture. There you go. He's hiding it with his head now.
But yeah, these things are bright. Like I think I'm on the brightest setting right now, but I can change them to like a different settings of white light and everything, depending. You can also control it from your computer. Like it's fancy stuff. I don't even need most of this stuff, but I felt like if I'm going to invest in something that's going to last the next hopefully 5-10 years, I'm going to get a lot. I got a Yeti X mic, 4K camera, two lights, and last year around March I got a Mac Studio, right?
Yeah.
So I went nuts, because I was like, you know what, I'm 25 episodes of the podcast. Obviously I like this. I love having the conversation. I love, I've been trying more to be guests on people's shows now, like yourselves, which is awesome. So now I got to make the investment in this because I'm committed and I love doing it and I love doing the YouTube. But don't go and buy all this stuff and then, oh, I don't like doing it, because what are you going to do with it now, right? Now you're $5,000 into equipment, right? Like, because that's what it costs. It costs a lot of money to invest in all this stuff, right?
Well, we know.
Yeah.
We're going through the cameras right now. We're looking up different cameras and settings and different things to start recording properly, not just on Zoom. And it's expensive. Like you're looking at a Sony 6400 or a 6400, they're like $1,500 for a single camera, right? So if you need 4 of them, it adds up.
But I think that's some really good advice for when people are like first getting started. So now that we have like the camera and everything sorted out, what would you recommend for like the back end editing of YouTube? Like, well, you're it all together.
Yeah. So we have a software we use. I got 2 that we use for different like video editing software. What do you use?
So here's the funny thing is I used iMovie for a very long time because it was free, and I was gonna go deep, and I was gonna get like Final Cut Pro and all these other kind of fancy things everybody gets. And I was doing a training in Arte about like YouTube for beginners kind of thing for people. And like a few people who are in video editing were like, I can't believe that program you're using for free works better than this high-end program I pay $80 a month for. So I use CapCut.
CapCut. Okay.
It's free too. And
Wild.
It is nuts. I was showing people I had 7 layers layered up. And what I mean by that, so some people may not understand what I mean by layers. So the way it works, I can have audio at the bottom. Above that, I can have video. And then I can have video, all piled on top. And I can have them overlap over top of each other. I can do cutouts. So like me talking to you right now, I could cut out my face and like place myself in the bottom corner, place myself in the middle. I can do all sorts of different things in there. And it works so easy. It's actually disgusting that it's free, because it's just like
wild. I'm going to have to look that up. So what we use is we use Camtasia, which you can do all your layers. And then I also use Movavi, which is like a audio. It's a little more, there's a lot more little nuances to that. And I think I paid $400 for like the whole software. And I have the whole, I don't know if that lasts more than a year or 2 years or whatever before it gets out of date, but well, $400 was the investment to clip audio together with video and do overlays and all that kind of stuff. So that's interesting that it's free.
Yeah, so we were talking off camera. One of my values and one of Robin's values was efficiency, right? We were talking about 100%. That. And you know what blew me away is I couldn't believe how efficient this helped me to the point where I was like, I'd pay $50 a month for this thing, right? Like, I can't even believe it's free.
Oh, I need to go down this rabbit hole.
Right. Like I just, you know what I mean? Like, that's just how I look. It's like, why am I wasting? And that was the problem. I used to have an iMac, like an iMac. It was like 10, it's like 11 years old now. And that's what I used to use. But when I went to go edit the videos, and that's another thing we should bring up. Sorry. 4K resolution. If you got a cheap computer, guess what? You're not going to be able to edit that 4K video. Right. So that's another reason why a lot of people do 1080p. Mr. Beast doesn't do it for that reason, because believe me, he's got like 8K cameras and all that stuff, but he still does it in 1080p. But needless to say, you need to have a good computer. That's why I bought the Mac Studio, so that I could edit 4K, trim it, cut it, whatever. So you want to make sure that you have that capability if you are going to go down the route of editing 4K resolution, or I don't know if YouTube's going to go the 8K route or not, but you know, if you want, like, you need to have a computer, a powerhouse that's going to keep up with it, right?
Makes sense.
Which makes sense, and that goes down to the equipment, right? Like getting and updating your computer. We seem to have to update them like every 4 years, regardless of what you do. If you're trying to keep up with
anything.
Well, yeah, literally anything.
Even down to like the accounting software, you need to update your laptops constantly.
Oh yeah. Yeah, 100%.
Which is sad. So we've gone through the basics now with everybody, kind of, you know, what to put out and how to kind of get started and just kind of do it. Do the 10,000 hour rule.
Yeah.
If you can, right? There's the Malcolm Gladwell rule. Like, you get really good at something. If you spend 10,000 hours, you should be an expert in it. Now there's all those hours that you're learning up to that point. So you're probably not going to put 10,000 hours in, because nobody has the attention span to do that anymore, but at least put 20. So I don't know if you listen to Alex Ramosi, and he has a theory that in 20 hours, you can learn a skill and be fairly efficient at it. You might not be excellent or good. You might still suck, but he's like, you should understand the basics in 20 hours. So that's kind of where we started, is like, give yourself 20 hours, try it out, spend a couple $100. And then if you like it and you think you can like start to do something, we'll go up to the next level, and then you can spend the $5,000 on the fun stuff. I'm the opposite.
100%. You're the opposite.
When we started the podcast, I was like, I want to know what the best gear.
Everything.
I want the best stuff. I don't care. I want the best sound quality. I want that. I'm like, let's do it.
Well, that's because that's one thing that we both noticed. Like with podcasts, I don't know if you're the same, but if we listen to it and the sound quality isn't good, we don't stay listening to it.
Oh, yeah, I tune out. I'm out.
Yeah, I had actually, there's a few people that I know that I used to listen to their podcast. I just haven't been lately, but I had to like contact them because I knew them personally. I'm like, hey, I like listening to your podcast, but the last 3 episodes, I can't listen to them because they're only showing up left channel only in my vehicle. Right? Like the whole right channel wasn't working. So it's like, it just, all you hear is that, and then your ears are like, what the heck's going on? I hear road noise over there and I don't hear sound. So it's distracting, and you can't listen to it on headphones. So I had to tell them. They ended up finding out that they had a problem with their audio equipment, which just basically meant the editor wasn't actually verifying there was left and right. Like every time I edit my stuff, I got my headphones on, right? And I'm listening. Hey, what does it sound like? Does that sound right? Because sometimes I'm recording, and I might say something, you know, like, fuck, I did terrible on that take. But I leave it recording so that I can just refresh and do it. Well, if you don't listen to your stuff, you can put that out there, like, you know, and now it's like, oh, shoot, this is supposed to be kid friendly, you know, like, great. YouTube didn't like that.
So benefit of the doubt, Clint.
I get the benefit of the doubt
on that one, because that's something that we both really value, is really good sound quality. So, but that's just something that's personal for us.
But I think
agree.
It ties back into, like, from podcasting to video and to YouTubing. You still want pretty good pixels, and you still want to be at that 1080p, because that's where the standard kind of sits. It might be a little bit higher now, but you still want to have something that someone's not going to get like, oh, it's so grainy. It's like watching a hockey game from the 80s, like rewind. You're like, oh man, this is bad.
Black, white. You got to go get the old CRT TV and watch it on that, because there's you don't want the black lines on the side.
Right. So that's just something like to think about when you're doing it. It's okay when you're learning, I think, for me, this is just my opinion, to go on and do it. But when you hit that phase, I'm like, oh, I got to have the right stuff. Like we're going to have about 8 to 10 episodes in season 2 that'll hit YouTube before we like get some high quality cameras. Cause I don't think I can't take it. My brain, I'm like, this better be good or I'm going to be upset at myself.
You'll be fine.
You'll be good. You'll be good. Like all I got is a Logitech 4K camera. I think it was 200 or 250 or something. It's not a lot of money, and it works really well. You know, you can obviously see my ugly mug here, right? Because I got a face for radio, right? So, but you know, that's really like it's you know, it's not crazy, and it works for a computer, plugs in the USB, all that kind of fun stuff. Technically it has a microphone in it, but I would never use the microphone in there. I mean, because it you know, people say my voice sounds good, but I say it's the Yeti X. You know, that's that's what it comes down to. This thing's beautiful.
Amazing.
The key to making a beautiful feature wall like this is sourcing the proper material that just happened to be delivered to the site by the installer who brought it from a shop in Okotoks where a crew was planing and milling material that's used for all kinds of things like barn doors, faux beams, and all sorts of custom furniture. Of course, it isn't that easy because before milling the lumber, the nails are removed from the boards, but not before hauling the boards from another yard, which can kind of be fun to get to. The material is stacked and well organized because retrieving the material means going out and gathering each board, piece by piece. But the real secret is finding a barn that is no longer functioning for its intended use. The 100-year-old boards from this barn will be on display in this new home for the next 100 years. We're Two Birds Furniture, and this is what we do.
Amazing.
So
Okay.
let's talk then some of the different processes. So I want to go into once you get your video made, let's go into the uploading and the process of actually getting your first video out and then continually. So you want to start there? I know there's a couple nuances like we've been told, and we'll just make sure that we're on the same page. When you upload your first video, you want to have a very long description, as long as YouTube will allow, basically, and then a lot of
I
tags.
think it's 5,000 characters.
I think so.
So a couple different things. I'm just going to kind of slow it down a little bit.
Okay.
There's 2 types of videos.
Okay.
So that's the only thing I want to make sure to touch on first so that there's no confusion. So there's regular widescreen, which is, you know, long form. And then there's YouTube Shorts, right? So YouTube Shorts are either 15-second or 60-second clips, which a lot of people don't realize what you're talking about. You can actually SEO optimize those YouTube Shorts as well. So you can actually put a description in there, you can put a picture in there and everything. But the difference is the 15-second videos, shorts, are this style, right?
Okay.
While the long form is this style, which is widescreen, right? So the YouTube Shorts is kind of more to compete with like Instagram, TikTok, those kinds of things, right? And so anyways, you're talking about uploading it. I just wanted to make sure to touch base on the 2 different ones.
No, it makes sense because I've seen a lot of videos. You go to upload, like whether it's TikTok and you're trying to do a reel or something on Instagram, and you're trying to steal from your YouTube, you got to do a whole reformatting of things to try and to flip it so it goes the right way.
Well, you can actually go into, and I'm probably jumping ahead here, but you can actually go into videos that you have on YouTube on your phone, and you can actually hit the remix button, and you can pull out a 15-second short of whatever part of the video you want and have that go as a short. And then as it goes out there, it'll actually promote the video that's the long form video, which, like, I've done it a few times recently just to see if it does good, and usually I get like 2,000 plus views on it, and usually I see more views on that long form video as a result of the short of like 15-second snippets. And the other thing you can do on a short is you can add 15 seconds of music for copyright free.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, but to earn money, like, which we'll stay away from that right now, because I know you want to talk about content and how to write with that. So I was talking earlier about repurposing blogs from my website. So
Mhm.
what I typically do is I copy the blog from my website and I post it onto that YouTube video, little
Okay.
notes from there. And I use that as the content, right? And at the top, very important, you need to have a title. Okay. And to make sure your title's relevant, what I recommend doing is getting either TubeBuddy, vidIQ, or one of these things. They're paid subscriptions. There are free versions of it, but the free version is not going to give you as much flexibility. The reason why is because you can go into Keyword Explorer, and in Keyword Explorer, you can actually look up and you can actually find whether or not your headline is something people are looking for. Right.
Mhm.
So if you want to talk about, I don't know, why you want to start a YouTube channel, you could enter that in there and it'll tell you, okay, this is a really good SEO score. This is a really good headline. And you can make your whole video about that. Right. So you can do that. You got to figure that out.
What were
And
those
then,
websites again?
well, it's TubeBuddy,
Yeah.
TUBE Buddy. I use TubeBuddy personally. vidIQ, VIDIQ.
Okay.
And the other thing I should say, they both have YouTube channels where you can actually tune into for free and learn stuff about how to start a YouTube channel, all the things that you do wrong on your videos. They talk about a lot of that stuff, right? How to grow your audience, how to grow everything. I mean, these guys have some pretty big followings, so typically they're showing you a lot of that stuff as well. So you can so you have your title at the top, which is hopefully going to grab some attention. And then you have your information, which is up to 5,000 characters, like we were talking about. You need to put the title in there at the top again. Okay. It's important because it helps for search engine optimization. It's showing that that information is listed again inside the 5,000 characters. The other thing is directly under that title or anywhere you want within those 5,000 characters, you can enter 3 hashtags. Right.
Mhm.
So if it's about, I don't know, changing a toilet out as a plumber, you have hashtag plumber, hashtag toilet, hashtag, I don't repairman or something like that. Right. And those 3, if people are looking up toilet or whatever, or, you might come up or be easier to find because you've entered that as your hashtags. Right.
Mhm.
On top of the SEO portion, which is the 5,000 characters, I always make sure to put links for what the action you want them to take forward, right? So in terms of that, I'll have links to the website, right? Like, shop dash cams, learn more about dash cams, and then other popular YouTube videos that I have, I'll have links to those other videos. Why? Because I want to try and have those people who are liking those videos to hopefully go and explore more of what we have to offer. Right. So that's
Yep.
some of the things that I put in the 5,000 characters. And there's another thing that goes in there is chapters. If you have something that's long for podcasts, I would never do chapters for a podcast, in my opinion. But for making a YouTube video, if you have multiple things that you're talking about within the video, I recommend strongly putting chapters. Some of your audience will even say, like, it'd be nice if you had chapters, right? Like they'll even message you saying that, right? So make sure that you're putting in chapters so it's easy, because some people have no interest in hearing about, you babble on the first 2 minutes of whatever you're talking about. They might want to just know, what's the resolution of the dash cam? Okay, that's the chapter where he talks about it, and they click on that and they leave. Right. But at the end of the day, they might subscribe because you've done the chapters and you've made it easy for them to find that information.
That's
Makes
honestly,
sense.
that's wonderful advice though, because a lot of
Yeah.
people, like, I didn't even think of that till now. Like literally wasn't thinking about I just want to skip ahead to this chapter because of my attention span's like very limited, like everybody else's in the world. It's like, if I can just get that info, I'm out. It's like how I go shopping for stuff. I'm like in and out. Like I know what I want. I'm not going back for it. Right. I'm not going there to wander the mall.
But that's also what Google does. Like when you type something in Google, like you're specifically looking for something like how to change a toilet, just to keep the plumber thing rolling, like Google will actually find that chapter and then be like, hey, watch this clip. Right.
Yeah.
So it's helping even optimize that even further. Cause I know I'm like, that's how I learn a lot of how-to stuff is Google actually finds a lot of those specific chapters for me.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, you put in the chapters there, right, on what it's about. So if I put like dash cam resolution or whatever the chapters are about, it's going to try and find that because it's going to see the title. And I just had this thing I was thinking about recently that I was explaining to somebody about 3 months ago. So I did these YouTube shorts on a Chrysler Pacifica. Okay. Not a popular vehicle, not a lot of them at all. Okay. But I did a short, it got like, 2,000 views. And the next day, someone calls me, hey, I need a dash cam for a Chrysler Pacifica. And I was like, oh, okay. Did you see my video? Video? No, no idea. Okay, interesting. Quote on it, end up installing it, whatever, booking them in. The next day, like on the Tuesday, right, I have someone call me again. Yeah, Chrysler Pacifica. Oh, you see my video? No. So, I mean, I don't know what the deal is, but I will tell you this. Google works in mysterious ways. And because I put out that YouTube short talking about a dash cam and a Chrysler Pacifica, and I'm located in Vancouver area, I feel that what happened was Google said, this person owns a Chrysler Pacifica. We know they do, right? Because they own it or they've looked it up or something like that, right? And they want a dash cam. This guy is in their service area that's done it. So they show my website as one of the first ones. Click, boom, they call me, right? I know it sounds creepy, but I put content out there, catered, and then boom, I get calls. I put out a Mazda CX-5 the week later, and it's like 5 people with Mazda CX-5s call. Like, what the heck? And I'm like, oh, did Mazda deliver all their CX-5s this week? No. Okie dokie. So you know what? When you're putting out your content, you need to make sure to have stuff. And I'll have like Mazda CX-5 dash cam. Why? I know people are going to be looking that up. I know that, and we're just talking about shorts right now, right? And then I'll have like hashtag dash cams, hashtag Mazda, right? And for some weird reason, yeah, Google's telling the world, hey, you're in Vancouver area. This guy does Mazdas. Call him, right? You know what I mean? Like,
great, though. That is weird though. But that makes a lot of sense that it would be pulling information from the area, being like, okay, I've seen this as a tag, and then it just grabs it and markets for you.
Yeah.
Simply connecting the dots.
Right. Okay, so I got a question for you though. So once you've got all of that info put in, you've got your chapters, there's the thumbnail, and then there's the short, basically the short video at the intro segment. Can you just like talk about the impact between which one, like how to do those two? Cause they're different.
So I'll talk about thumbnails, but the big thing on YouTube is thumbnails are going away.
Okay.
Interesting.
They're going to get rid of them. They're thinking it's going to be soon. So do you notice when you go on YouTube now and you're scrolling, it shows about the first 7 seconds of the video, right? So what they're thinking is going to happen, this is what vidIQ, TubeBuddy, all the guys are saying, is what they're hearing is the thumbnail's gone because there's too many people making a thumbnail that has nothing to do with the video, and then people are leaving, right? So, like I talked about you off camera, about how I had one of my podcast episodes had like 400 people view it. It's 50 minutes long, but my engagement was 3 minutes because obviously there was probably, I don't know, 20 people that actually listened to the whole thing and 300 people, 80 people going, what? This isn't about what I thought it was. Right. So, I mean, that's the big thing that people do, right? Like people will write something like, this politician's an idiot and stealing directly from us. And then they, you watch the video and you watch the whole thing, like they're like, they didn't even talk about that. What the hell? And you're pissed. Right. So like, why did this wasted 5 minutes of my time?
Yeah.
So it's like YouTube. So anyways, I will talk about thumbnails because they are still relevant.
Okay.
But it seems like everything's going to the first 7 seconds now.
That intro segment that I was curious about. Yeah.
So what I've been doing is, well, I mean, I don't know. It's all hidden behind my thing here. But for instance, I'll have, I'll do an example. I'll do a whole thing where, iPhone 14 Pro Max versus the Google Pixel. Which one's better? Right? Stay tuned, blah, 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 whatever, right? Well, now you're like, oh shit, I'm looking at buying a Pixel or an iPhone. You're going to want to stay tuned because I've cooked you. I've, as Ed Milet says, I've framed it, right? So if you're interested in what the video is about, if you're interested in a Pixel or if you're interested in an iPhone, you might want to listen, right? So what I like to do at the beginning of my videos, and I've gotten better at this now. I did really terrible. Like I went to the Arate Summit and they were talking about framing there. And I came back and I was like trying to do framing and it was really terrible. Right? Like I say, everything you do as you learn, you're going to make mistakes. It's going to suck and you're going to learn from them. Right? So now I do like a whole, this dash cam versus this dash cam and versus this dash cam. Which one has the best 4K resolution? Stay tuned. I'm Ben from Safe Drive Solutions and you're going to whatever, right? But you're framing the first 7 seconds to, if I'm actually interested in that, I'm going to watch. If I'm not, I'm not interested in those 3 dash cams, tuning out, right? So, but you need to hook them in on whatever you're going to talk about, right? And if you're not hooking them in, then they're not interested, right? Which just means that your audience isn't interested or you're just not doing a good job at framing what the episode is going to be about. If you're just sitting there like, I'm Ben from Safe Drive Solutions, the dash cam specialist, and last time I talked about this and that and whatever, well, most people are probably going to tune out because they're just going to see me here talking. But if I'm waving around shiny stuff or showing pictures of, we're going to have video comparison coming up, and I show like a little 1 second skip of 3 dash cams being compared, people are going to go, oh shit, I want to see that. What chapter is that in? Right. But you want to get them hooked within the first 7 seconds. Right. And Mr. Beast, which we talked about off camera, he does an amazing job of this, right? Me and the boys are going to Alaska, and they'll show like, a clip of Alaska. Let's see if we last 72 hours. Right. You know what I mean? And you're like, oh shit, I want to see what's he doing.
Do they last 72 hours?
Right? Like,
or do they end up in the bus with Christopher McCandless? What happens here?
Right? Like, but the thing is he does a good job of framing that. And I imagine that he is one of the ones who's been pushing for the 7-second intro. Because if you do watch Mr. Beast videos at all, and if you don't have kids and you think that you can't watch it because you should still be watching it because he's very good at what he does. But he has videos that he talked about from 2 years ago where they like traveled the world and like they went to the pyramids, they went here, they went all these places, and they can't think of a thumbnail, so they never released the video. So we're talking spent like $1 million producing a video, never puts it out because he can't figure out a thumbnail that's going to get people's intro. Like you're not interested, right? So think about that, right? If they go to the 7-second thing, you could explain, me and the boys traveled all around the world. We went to Egypt, we went here, we went there. And now you maybe got that. But if it's just a thumbnail, how do you fit like Egypt and all these different things? You know what I mean? You're trying to land that information in a thumbnail. So I'm excited to see if they do this 7-second thing and get rid of the thumbnail, because honestly, you spend a lot of time editing thumbnails. but I use Canva for thumbnails.
Yeah.
Right. And I do that because it's a cheaper program. You do get a lot of free high resolution images that you can use. And I pay like, I want to say it's $15 a month or something like that to utilize it. Now you might have, like, what is it? Adobe Premiere or something, some fancy program like that, which is fine if you have that. but I use Canva just because it'll remove background. So a lot of times I can get in front of the camera and do like this and like, this, like stuff like that. And it'll remove the whole background behind me without me having a green screen. Right. And I can utilize that in my thumbnails. Right. So.
Right. So basically what you're telling me is thumbnails used to be the big thing, because that used to drive, like, it was basically your ad, like your fish hook to hook somebody.
Yeah.
And now it's going to be basically a Vine video. We're going back some time, but like, it's basically your 6-second Vine clip is what promotes your video.
I guess so. I'd be honest, I don't even think I ever used Vine. So
Not many people did. It was like way ahead of its time for like, it was just 6-second clips. That's all you could upload.
nice. Yeah, no, I mean that's what it seems like, because as you scroll down, they are showing the 7-second beginning. And if you are cluing in to that's how the videos are being framed now, and you start doing that, you're going to be ahead of most other people, because most other people are still focusing on the thumbnail. Now,
Right.
don't get me wrong, the thumbnail is still important, because when you look at it on a TV, what do I see? I see like 8 or 12 thumbnails. And I might not click on something because I don't care for the thumbnail. So thumbnails are still relevant at this point in time.
Mhm.
Okay. But like I said, I use Canva, and that's just what I use. No, I know it was a long-winded.
We use Canva on the
long-winded.
same thing too. That's good. So now we're here. So we're ready. Let's just say the video is published now. So we've gone through all the steps, published the video, got a good thumbnail or a 7-second segment there. And now what do we do once it's out to curate views, to start to, interact with people who are commenting? What are some of those things that you can do to start over time getting the view count up, especially when you're starting out?
So a couple different things that we actually didn't touch on here. So one thing, you don't have to publish it. You can actually schedule them out as well, if you didn't know. So some people don't know that. So what I do is I typically find when my audience is usually viewing things, and I schedule it to come out so that hopefully it has a good launch quick, right? Because if all of a sudden a whole bunch of people, very much like Facebook, you put a post out there, and if 10 of your friends scroll past it and don't even like it or look at it, really, then Facebook just hides it. Well, I find that very much YouTube does the same thing. They don't hide it, but it definitely does not get the same traction as if you put it out at a premium time. So like, early on, like I said, I would make mistakes. So I would go and I would just like, it's midnight, I finished editing it live. And then I'm like, oh man, like no one's really viewing it. Well, because most of my viewers aren't till like 8 in the morning, 9 in the morning, my time zone. So I schedule everything for usually 8 or 9 in the morning, right? Because I know people are going to be engaging and viewing it at that time. So a couple of things that we didn't talk about that you should do before you post it is tags. Right. So we talked about the 5,000 characters. We talked about having chapters. We talked about having hashtags within there. The other thing you want to do is have tags. So if you have TubeBuddy or vidIQ or one of these kind of softwares where you can, so let's say you do plumbing, like we're talking about, and you look up and one of your top competitors has, 100,000 followers with their plumbing company. Go take a look at how to change a toilet, look it up. You can see what tags they're using, and you can copy them with this software. So you can find out, hey, look, they got like 40 tags that they're using. You can copy them, put them on like your Microsoft Word or in your clipboard. You go into your video, and then just literally you can post it, and you can use their tags that they're already using so that your video ranks and is easier to be found. Right? So a lot of people don't realize that you can do this. But if you don't have the software, you wouldn't know it, and you wouldn't be able to see that as well. Right?
Which makes sense.
Yeah. So you want to make sure, if you already know that there's something successful that video is doing, go and make sure to copy that. Like I said earlier, R&D, rip off and duplicate. And then as your video performs, there's certain things within TubeBuddy and vidIQ that will show you which tags are actually ranking and performing well.
Mhm.
And if there's ones that aren't, you can remove them and add new tags in that maybe will rank well. Like you'll probably see somebody post something like how to change a toilet in 2022, right? And then all of a sudden you'll see the same video now says how to change a toilet in 2023, because they go and change the thumbnail, put 2023, and then they add different tag or keywords in so that it ranks for this year, right? Because they already know that that video is ranking and people are watching it. So they just go change a couple little tags and keywords. Now, something else that I want to make sure to touch on as well, and I'm just trying to remember the exact terminology here so I don't butcher it. But when you are in your content, and I just want to make sure you can actually add in cards. Okay. So if you don't know what cards is, you can actually recommend your own videos or someone else's videos if you want to recommend someone else's videos directly on your video. Now, typically you want to recommend your own, obviously, right? So if I'm talking about, I don't know, dash cam resolution, or if I'm talking about, you can use this SD card, I'll add a card in which will show up. When you're watching a video and there's those little things that pop up at the top saying, watch this video for more info. So I'll add a card in saying, which SD card to use for your dash cam. And it'll pop up that they could watch my whole 5-minute video about that instead of just me saying this dash cam uses a 256 gigabyte SD card. And if you want to learn more about that, look up there because there's probably a video that we're recommending for you to watch, right? So that's kind of what you can do with your cards. You can also add an end screen. So, when you get to the end of the video, right? And YouTube wants to see all this stuff done. Like I said, chapters, thumbnail, cards, the end screen. So when you go to the end screen template, you can have it recommend a video that you recently did. You can choose it to recommend 2 videos. You can do all sorts of different things. And there's lots of templates in there as well. Now, why I use TubeBuddy, like I said earlier, is because TubeBuddy will actually audit. So like I'm looking at one of my videos here while I'm talking to you. And for instance, it says I've finished 9 of the 11 best practices. Now, if you're just using YouTube, it's typically not going to give me any of that information. So it tells me I have tags in my title, I have captions, right? So I've hearted a comment that people have put on my video, add to a playlist, add chapters, title between 20 and 70 characters. I know I'm just rambling on now, but this is all stuff that you can do within the video that will help you rank, and YouTube will see it and go, okay, good. He's engaging, right, with people. And one of the things I always do at the end of my video, and sometimes at the beginning, depending on the video, is I always tell people, if you have questions, or maybe we didn't cover something in this video, please leave a comment down below. We are here to help and educate. And that's where I feel that's like my whole CTA, like, click to action or claim to action, whatever you want to call it, is that, because then I have a lot of people actually comment on it. And that's where I've gotten to the point where I have lots of comments, like looking at some of my views here, I have, 80 comments, 45 comments on some of these videos now. So in looking at my top video, I have 7,126 views and 138 likes, right? So you want your likes to dislikes as well to be roaming good, because that means people are liking it. If they're low, YouTube's not really going to show it to people, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's based on a simple algorithm, right? They basically tell you like what's good and what's not based on likes and comments, and it's very similar to what TikTok does with, if it's not getting a lot of engagement, it's gone.
Well, and really with a lot of that engagement, especially in the comments, is you can rely on all of your followers to help you create the new content because they're letting you know what they want.
Oh yeah, well,
as well.
That actually, you set me up for a perfect thing to talk about. So my goal was to get to 500 subscribers by the end of the year. And the reason why that was my goal is because at 500 subscribers, it opens the community tab for YouTube. And when you do, when you go on YouTube and you see these little polls of like, who would you vote for in the next election, or, you know, that kind of junk or whatever, right, that you see on there. Well, I started putting out polls like, what do you want to see the next video on? And I'll put like 4 options. And then I like, boom, a week later, I went and launched that video. Right. So I actually went and put some polls out for people, and then people would actually vote on it. And then I put it out. Sometimes the video is too long, and I'm like, it's going to be a few weeks before I get this thing out. Like what you guys are asking for
Please
is,
bear with me.
you know, but you can put polls out like that, and you're interacting with your audience. And that's what I think is nice, right? Is them seeing that I'm interacting with them. I'm asking their opinion. What are you looking to learn about next? And because of that, I think that's also why I'm growing my channel as well.
Which makes sense. So what other metrics, we were talking off air, but we were asking about other metrics. So we didn't want to get too much into monetization, because that's a whole nother can of worms for this episode. But let's just talk with those metrics of when those thresholds are for YouTube. So you can kind of start to maybe plan out if you're going to make this a long-term strategy for your business or not. You kind of have some metrics to try and aim for.
Yeah. So for instance, in order to monetize, there's 2 different ways to monetize. One is 1,000 subscribers. You need to have 1,000 subscribers. That is 100% mandatory. If you don't have that, there's no monetization no matter what. Okay. And then you have to have one of the following: 4,000 watch time hours in the last 365 days. So that doesn't mean you can go and make a video and then monetize on something if no one's really engaging with them, right? You need to have 4,000 watch time hours. Like right now, I'm at 3,616 watch hours. And like I was telling you, 3,200 of that was in the last 3 months when my YouTube channel started blowing up. Which actually we got to talk about that, because I talked about that off camera. I didn't bring that up, but YouTube Shorts, right, is you need to have 10 million views in 90 days.
Whoa.
So the reason why they're doing that, they're trying to steal the TikTokers, the big TikTokers right now, right? And they're going to get them, because they're like, there's people like I was telling you about that Jason guy within our group. He's getting like, sometimes he's getting like 1 million views on some of his stuff on TikTok, right? He's someone who probably could accomplish this in 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
But we got to talk about this. Is very important. This is huge. Whatever you do for your YouTube channel, you need to be focused. Okay. We talked about this off camera. We almost forgot to bring it up again. That's how I grew my channel. Okay. So I started 14 months ago is when I actually really started doing something with my channel. Okay. And it got to the point where as of July, August, I think it was August or September or something like that. Anyways, I was at 150 subscribers, and I was like, I'm going to hit 500 by the end of the year, but it wasn't growing. Like I think I said in April, I was going to grow to 500, but it wasn't growing. It was like, it wasn't going anywhere. So watching Mr. Beast, listening to Mr. Beast, I made a call that scared the shit out of me. Okay. I took my podcast that was on YouTube and no longer posted any new podcast content on my channel. I created a separate channel for my podcast, put it on there, started from scratch again. Okay. Which really sucked, because I'd worked really hard to get people. But what I was noticing is I would have 10 people subscribe, and then I'd lose 5 people, and then I'd lose 10 people, and then I gained 10. And it was up and down all over the place. Why? Because I was putting out dash camera content and I was putting out podcast content. So the people who were subscribing because they seen the dash camera stuff were like, oh, this is wicked. This is great content. And then I'd put out my Focus on Customer Experience podcast, and people are like, what the hell's this guy about? Unsubscribe. Right? So I was confusing my audience. They didn't understand what I was doing. And if you do this, anything like this, you are not going to do well. Right? So I went from 150 to 500 subscribers in 2.5 months, which would have been, what is that? October. It must have been mid-October that I did it. Right? I blew up huge. right? And I felt scared at first, but it was like, it just blew up because now people knew that my whole channel was to do with dash cameras. Okay. But now my podcast channel is at that rebuilding, starting again, trying to let YouTube know that you're part of the algorithm. And I'm going to be 100% honest. I haven't put all my heart into the podcast channel because I seen the YouTube channel for my business blow up. So now it's, I got to be consistent with this. Yeah, I got to make sure all the tags, I'll make sure this, boom, boom, chapters. And to kind of give you an idea, when I put out like that 35-minute video that I was talking about earlier, that was 12 hours of editing. I did 12 hours of editing, right? So but the reason why it took me 12 hours editing is because I was trying to give people a different experience than what any of my other competitors are doing. Everybody else is just doing their thing where they're like, it has 4K, it has this, and they're talking about it. But I'm trying to give them an experience of pictures and showing them how the app works and showing them pictures of the product, showing video quality. So I'm trying to give them a different experience when everyone else is doing. So I'm more unique. And because of that, it's a lot of time. And I can't wait to hire somebody to start doing the video editing.
And it takes time. People don't realize how much time goes into even podcast editing, let alone like video editing, podcast editing. It's all time. And because we didn't even talk about it with a podcast, but we go and break down the wave files. So every microphone and every person that's on, so sometimes we'll have 4, sometimes we'll have 5. We have to go through and listen to the podcast 4 times. Right, to go down and increase the sound here because the waves weren't good enough, decrease it here. It takes time. And like the same, like you said, for video, and video is worse because you're overlay and underlay and
you have an
voiceovers
and a visual
everything
component.
that you're doing kind of has to, and it needs to flow.
Oh yeah, man. And I'll be taking, I want to, how does the app work for the dash cam? So I'm making screen recordings and then sending the screen recordings to here and then editing them and adding them in the CapCut and layering it in and trimming it and cutting it and turning the audio off on that video, on that screen recording. Cause last thing you want is to hear me talking about the screen recording or me touching the screen as audio and on top of me talking. So you have, it really you can get more efficient on it, but if it does take time to do. Now I'm not trying to scare people off. Not every video is going to take 12 hours. I mean, that one, like I said, that it was in my vehicle and I recorded it. It was 20 minutes long and I just used the stand and my phone. I mean, literally, I put all those on there and I didn't have to do any editing because all I was trying to do was show how to mount a dash cam on the windshield. So it's literally me showing my recommendations, explaining why. So there was very minimal on that. I mean, I think I was 2 hours invested in that. That's beautiful. Right? That's beautiful, but it's not always like that.
But the one thing we're also not saying for everybody listening and watching is we're not saying that the time that you put into that, how many people are going to get value from that? So I always go for cost per wear, cost per use, whatever it might be. Mathematically speaking, the amount of people that are going to maybe watch that could be 12, 15, 20,000. Well, you can break that down over 12 hours. It's
cost per view.
Cost per view, right? And how many people are you going to monetize on that, or potentially buy a dash cam or buy whatever you're, when you're not even trying to sell, you're just trying to educate. So that's one thing is we always forget to talk about all the time that goes in, but once it's done, it's done. Now that video can, if it's good and you're happy with it and everyone getting value of it, the value might be exponential. And that's something we didn't even touch on really, is the exponential value of continually producing that kind of content. And it takes time, but there's value in that time.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure we're coming near the end here, but
yeah.
I know you asked about analytics, and you can use YouTube Studio and you can actually see your analytics for free. And you can see how your content does. You can see the engagement on your videos, right? So like I was telling you about some of my top videos, it'll actually show me how much engagement it was. And a lot of my top videos have over 25% engagement, right? So when you have a 30-minute video, you have to think about that. someone is staying engaged with you for over 25%, which is 7.5 minutes, right? So that means you're probably making good content. But if you have a 30-minute video and you have 1 minute of engagement and you have like 1,000 views, you don't have a lot of people actually watching your video. That means you're doing something wrong in the video. And there is certain things in the analytics that will show you kind of where people are dropping off, where they're watching, where they're staying engaged. But honestly, it took me quite a while to understand a lot of these analytics and digest that. Okay, this is what I did wrong. Okay, this is what I could do better next time, right? So, yeah.
I think that's it.
That's
for
fantastic.
That's enough information.
That is a lot of information.
Like, there's a lot to digest there and to go back and to take notes on, guys.
Yeah.
So if you guys are driving and listening to this, maybe go home, pop it in and write some notes down, because there's some really good pieces of software to check into. There's some really good, like, even just equipment recommendations, and then the whole breakdown of how to post onto YouTube and all the different things, such as chapters and the tags, everything we went back through. There's a lot to digest. So I think if you go back and listen to it a couple times or watch it again, what we'll do is we'll have some things up on our value added for you guys.
Nice little cheat sheet.
We'll have a little cheat sheet for you guys that you can jump on our website at businesslifeofhusbandwife.ca, and you'll be able just to take some of these jot notes that we're going to do for you, and you guys will be able to get those for free from us. And where can everybody find you, since we're wrapping up our show here?
Probably the easiest way to find me is on benjamindelgrosso.com, or you can check out my YouTube channel, Safe Drive Solutions Dashcam Specialist. If you want to check out what I'm doing, you can also make an intro video to your YouTube channel. So don't forget about that as well, to introduce your people to your channel. So,
and your podcast, I want people to jump on and have a listen, because a lot of our listeners are business owners. So I want them to be able to jump on about customer experience, customer service.
Yeah. It's the Focus on Customer Experience podcast. So it's pretty cool. I get CX consultants, which are customer experience consultants from all over the world. Get a lot of people lately. I've been trying to get a lot of people on to talk about culture and building culture within a business. And it's very interesting, some of the words that people have to analyze your workers, analyze your team. And I talk a lot about, those are the people you need to fire. It's great. I love it. So,
can they find you on all platforms for that, like Spotify, Apple, Google, all the places?
Spotify, Apple, Google, Stitcher, Amazon, Anchor, YouTube.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Benjamin.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was great.
Hey guys, as always, you guys can find us at businesslifeofhusbandwife.ca, and like, share, and subscribe. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for listening, everybody. As always, like, share, and subscribe to help us grow the show.